Swimming like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank.
Hey everybody, welcome to the post-show wrap-up of the Shrimp Tank. I'm your co-host Ted Jenkins, sitting here with my co-host Chris Hanks, who's the executive director and founder of the Shore Center for Entrepreneurship. If your kids have not checked out Kennesaw State University, amazing things going on in here. Every week on the post-show wrap-up of the Shrimp Tank, we get to talk to our guests. Today we had CEO of StaffMetrix HR, Scott Soder, all about their business. You should always catch a replay, especially what Scott talked about today, at shrimptankpodcast.com or download us on iTunes, Google Play, or SoundCloud. This is the kind of information that will get you an MBA in entrepreneurship. It's sort of where you get that crossroads of street smarts and book smarts, and you can get that all at one time right here on the Shrimp Tank.
So, Scott, one thing that came up, we talked a little bit about on the show, is a PEO. And I imagine a lot of people watching this, they're not even aware of what that is or what the benefits of having a PEO are.
Sure. That's a great place to start. So thanks, Chris. First of all, Ted and Chris, thank you for having me on the show.
Absolutely.
Glad to be here. This is an opportunity that's awesome. I know you guys both. But again, thank you for having me today. So a PEO is a professional employer organization. And what that means is clients who choose to use our PEO get access to not only Fortune 500 employee benefits for major medical, dental, vision, life, disability, 401k, retirement plans. They also get protection from issues around compliance. So doing something that you might not know you shouldn't be doing or should be doing from an HR perspective, human resources perspective. So you get access to the payroll, the human resources, employee benefits, workers' compensation insurance, the whole gamut on HR, retirement planning, all under one roof. And that company gets access to all those through our buying power. So we have a large pool of employees. So we can negotiate on their half. So the more you have with certain carriers, the better you're off from a buying power perspective.
You know, many owners that are watching hear this mantra of recruit, train, retain. But the hard part in there is learning how to recruit and also how to retain. So for folks that are watching the post-show wrap-up today, what ideas could you give them, especially with what you can all help with within StaffMetrix HR, about the whole recruiting and retaining part of it? Because you said in today's podcast that retention is a big issue and turnover costs a lot of these companies a lot of money.
Sure. I think, Ted, it starts with recruiting. Obviously, you need to know who you want or need in your organization. So I think you have to have a solid foundation or plan for knowing if I'm going to go to market and I need a position for X, or I need a new secretary, or I need a new salesperson. What exactly is your company's, goals? What are they looking to achieve by bringing in new talent? So if you can't define that, then you really shouldn't be going out and interviewing. So we help employers, our clients, determine what's their culture, right? Understanding, do they have a culture? Should we create a culture? And then determining, okay, here's the perfect criteria for a candidate. Is it years experience in the industry? Is it education? Is it, whatever those factors are, we help them develop those criteria. So recruiting is the key piece right there, knowing what you need and knowing why you need it to be successful. The retention then comes into the programs behind the scenes, like we talked earlier about the using employee benefits as a retention tool. So every industry is different. So a restaurant is going to look at their benefits package completely different than an IT company. We recognize that. So we're not going to talk to them about restaurant level employee benefits. We're going to talk to them about IT level benefits that are good for them. We talk about getting engaged in incentives for tax incentives, both for the individual and the employer. So when you do some creative consulting around high deductible plans with health savings accounts, flexible spending accounts, there's significant tax savings that a lot of employers don't consider, but they're good for the employee, especially highly compensated employees.
So one thing we also talked about is, some of the issues around human resources and compliance and a few war stories, I guess. And I was just curious if you wouldn't mind elaborating a little bit on, maybe how you've helped a client or what you've seen a client do that they shouldn't have done.
Sure. So I think, Chris, the case you're referring to is what I mentioned earlier about the client who had a management team that had been in place for a while and kind of balked at the HR services we provide for a consulting package that would have cost him about $5,000 a year under our umbrella, that would have helped coach and communicate with his managers on what they can and can't do, what they can and can't say. It created an issue at his office where an employee complained complained about a manager saying something about a TV show that was being watched the night before. This individual felt like it was offensive to her religion, and she claimed that when the termination occurred that she was terminated because of her faith, and it wasn't the case. She got terminated for performance. So had they have hired us and used us to consult with them and put these programs in place, would have prevented, or could have prevented, I should say. You obviously have to follow it once it's done, but the managers would have known not only what I can and can't do, but why is it important, right? Why is it important to not only me as an employee of the company, but also the owner of the business to protect the entity? That's why he's in business, is to make money. So it ended up costing him about $90,000 to fend off the case. It turned into an EEOC claim, and it could have been prevented. It could have been eliminated if some things were done in court. An attorney would have probably either minimized the case or made him settle it out of court before it even got there. So like Ted mentioned earlier, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
So in all the years of your doing benefits for companies, for the people on the post-show wrap-up here, is there a best benefit you've ever seen, best perk you've ever seen be put in an employee benefits manual?
Pet insurance. I think there's a benefit outside of true benefits like health insurance or dental vision is lifestyle stuff. So employee discount and reward programs are huge. Incentivize employees for doing a good job and rewarding them with public recognition inside the workforce. So it's not necessarily just the tangible, I need to take my kid to the doctor. It's some of those other things that, tie again back to the culture. And I've said that a few times. Culture to us is huge for us as a company, but it's also big. And when we're talking to our prospective clients, that they come up with a culture and we meet those needs.
Well, we want to thank you for coming on the program today. And for the owners that are watching the show today, or you have entrepreneurs and they want to learn more about getting payroll or being in a PEO or getting this HR and compliance help and things like that, Scott, how can folks watching the post-show wrap-up get in touch with you and StaffMetrix HR?
Yeah, thank you, Ted. So they can call me directly. My number is 770-855-5701. They can go to our website, which is www.staffmetrix.hr.com.
Now, I'm doing this as the post-show wrap-up. I know that Lee, Professor Hanks, and Scott will all love this. But in 1983, Professor Hanks, there was a famous guy named Thomas Dolby. Not many people know him. But he had a song. Do you know what that song was? She blinded me with science. And that's not what we're doing here. What we're going to do is have Scott Soder blind you with compliance. That's what it is. That's what you need for your business, because at the end of the day, if you don't protect yourself from an HR perspective, get these benefits, these labor laws, things like that in place, that's ultimately where your business could get hurt. And that's your post-show wrap-up of the Shrimp Tank.
I've been feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp